My MIL seemingly hates me. I, 24F, have been married to my husband, 29M, for 2 years this August. While my husband is a good man and does everything he can to provide for us, we have a daughter under a year, we've had trouble finding our own place with the current economy and live with his mother. Now at first, my MIL was very accommodating, though I quickly came to realize that was a control tactic. When I first came she said nice things like "I'm so glad my son found such a nice woman" or "I think we'll get along great." The kicker for me was "This is your house too, this will make sense in a bit." A few months in, all this facade was gone. My MIL realized I was not going to be controlled by her and that my husband was always going to side with me on any issues. She started moving my things without asking, or just straight up throwing them away and then pretending they just went missing so that it wasn't her fault. She'd scream obscenely at my dog for the smallest things. I was not told before I came that she hates long-haired animals, and she singles out my dog for it. My dog isn't allowed in the house except for our room. A few months later she had a tooth-related surgery, and while screaming at my dog, and me subsequently just bringing the dog inside our room so she wasn't bothered anymore, she started a fight with my husband. I was not a part of this fight, but it was most certainly about me and she knew I could hear. She said she hated me BC of my dog, and BC my husband takes my side in arguments. The thing I can never forgive her for saying, even though she doesn't act badly to my daughter, is that she hated my, at the time unborn, daughter BC. She just knew she'd never get to see her when we left here. There are external and personal reasons I won't disclose why she felt this way and was right. Things continued to escalate, throwing out my food or using something that wasn't hers just BC she felt like it. A big trauma trigger for me, and if it's not yours, don't fug with it. Coming into our room and trying to throw away my clothes and belongings BC they didn't match what she thought I should wear, etc. Now my husband and I don't pay rent or utilities, so I don't really say anything so as to not start issues. That's not to say we don't contribute. I cook at least 5 days out of the week, do grocery shopping, the communal laundry like towels, cleaning the kitchen and living room. We bought the TV and pay most of the subscriptions, and we pay for the Wi-Fi. Now with a daughter in her sleep regression phases, often I don't get to the kitchen before I go to bed, and here's where most of the issues stem from recently. My MIL's fiancé refuses to do anything inside the house, and they are traditional in thinking all household chores are a woman's job, but I constantly feel like my MIL thinks I should be the maid. No one cleans after themselves, and it gets taken out on me when something isn't done. I take stints of knocking out dishes when I can, and by the time I come back, all of what I washed is used and thrown about the kitchen again. They have consistently not paid bills, and we have to bail them out or just put up with no electricity/water until they pay up. Once 2 falls ago they were so behind it was going to cost $2,000 to get the electricity back on. Instead of paying, they broke into the box and turned it back on, which lasted 3 days before the company came and took the whole box. They were fined an extra $1,000 for the damage. We went without electricity and heat from September to mid-November. I found out I was pregnant in October of that year. They have no regard for how much money they have/don't have, and spend whatever they please for things that aren't necessary. My husband and I are paying the rent this month BC. They decided to take a week-plus trip in early May that they needed to fix their vehicles for, a Ford Bronco with a Confederate flag hood, and an old Chevy van. I feel like being petty and saying we paid rent this month so it's actually my house for the next 30 days. But I won't BC. I don't want to stress my husband anymore. They have no respect for me as a person and even use my vehicle without asking a good majority of the time, despite having 4 of their own that they have to continually do repairs on BC. They don't treat them correctly to wear and tear at a normal pace, and now my truck has issues as well. They also constantly have shady people over around my daughter all the time BC. They just don't care. That's how she raised my husband. Things are really starting to get to me BC, between my treatment here and my daughter in development stages that keep me up for all but 3 hours a night. I'm beginning to feel absolutely crazy. Like I'd actually start a physical fight if I was pushed too far, which is ironic considering my patience so far, and she almost mockingly tells me all the time that I have the patience of a saint. My husband is stressed trying to get us to a place of our own and has been avoidant and detached the last few months BC. It just keeps getting worse, and I still understand that she's his mother and I'm his wife, and he didn't want things to be like this, neither did I. He's got a job opportunity that looks like a good fit and jiff financially, so hopefully we'll be moved out soon. I feel like a single parent and a live-in maid RN, and I just don't know what to do anymore. I feel hated and disrespected as a human being. It's even so bad that work on loud vehicles and using power tools is done specifically when I'm trying to get my daughter to sleep. BC My Mill is convinced that my husband is such a heavy sleeper. He's so bad that he's looked like he was awake and we can have a full fucking conversation but he's actually still asleep and won't remember it, is that she was loud AF all the time around him even though for aforementioned reasons I won't disclose, she didn't actually raise him. My husband has already said he wants to go and see once we move out BC of how his mom treats me, at least for a little while, but I'm at a loss with how to deal with everything in the meantime. Last night I went to bed early to try to catch up and sleepy and pray that my daughter would actually sleep. She did for the most part thankfully. But I went inside to get a drink. BC It's dry AF in the house and when I looked around, all my stuff was moved again. She was soaking a cup of mine that had vinyl sticker on it from my sister, so I pulled it out but I cut myself. BC She stupidly put all the newly sharpened knives in the water as well. Then I noticed she'd fugged up the organization for a gem by number sticky canvas I'd been doing and I lost it. I'd already had problems with it being knocked over and the colors mixing so I was just done. I threw it away and said here, now it's not on your fucking table and went back to bed. This morning I woke up to find that she dug it out of the trash and put it back where I didn't want it kept in an attempt to be controlling. So I put it on the kitchen counter and dumped out all the gems on it, no particular order, just making it look ugly and a huge mess. I was shaking in inadequate emotion at that point. BC I felt manic. I threw away all the plastic and left the canvas and any gems that hadn't made it into the sticky part on the counter for her to find as protest to her controlling ways when she wakes up. I know this sounds childish but I need to get my point across. BC She's literally admitted to just not listening when I talk. If I'm the a-hole here. BC It's her house, but she treats the homeless guy that she let stay in his truck on the property with more respect and human decency than she does me. What to do until we move to avoid becoming the a-hole if I'm not already. Please help, any advice is appreciated.